This is Day 9 Daily 472 Part 2, where we learn to be a better gamer. In Part 1, we explored this amazingly easy to execute but ridiculously potent style that Stephano has been doing a lot in Zerg vs. Protoss lately. We got the chance to see it take down parting. Hooray. What we're going to do now is look at the exact build against a cheese play from MC, and we're going to see that indeed we can hold it off, like a really crazy aggressive cheese play. Then, for any of you Protoss players wondering how to take this down, we're going to be looking at a game of Stephano struggling when his big attack doesn't work. And we're also going to see kind of how it doesn't end up working. So we're kind of looking at it from both sides of the coin. I know you Protosses are starting to freak out, but we have in this game, I'd like to note an SKMC getting a very, very early gateway. He's getting his gateway at 320. 4 is generally considered late. Around 330, 345 is kind of normal, but if you're getting it at like 315, 320, that's a very early gateway. This is because MC is going to be planning a big warp gate attack, and the earlier you build the warp gate, or excuse me, the earlier you build the gateway, the earlier you build the cybernetics core, which means, of course, the earlier you get down that warp gate research. Stephano! Hey, I recognize this. He's doing the same thing he was doing before. Just making sure those queens are popping out on time. And same as before, we're going to see the queen lift up her skirt and head on down to the third. Hey, when do we get that double gas? Well, we get it at 6 minutes, just as before. For any of you who are wondering what MC is doing, he's actually going for a 1 gas, big mass gateway build. And let me know, if you are going for any 1 gas strategy, make sure that the geyser is not here. Put the geyser here, because if an overlord is floating here, it can easily see you don't have a geyser. But either way, notice that Stephano does have that vision of being able to see if there's a second gas coming in. Around 6:30 is when you kind of want to float your little butt over there and see what's up. Hey, look, 7 minutes. We're getting close to 7 minutes. Evo Chamber and Roach Warren. And we're getting ourselves a Happy Time Ling upgrade. Now, one thing that I will note right off the bat in this notepad, we got the layer, and then added 2 geysers, and then when we could afford it, we got Ling speed. Now, here is the thing. If he's doing a big attack early, save gas larva for roaches and lings, and get Ling speed. We're getting Ling speed before layer. And this is very useful to check, to be able to see, oh yeah, he has no geysers here. Huh, okay. So you're actually just going to start making rounds of Lings. No big deal. Now, if you are feeling like you're going to be under pressure, you have to do a little bit of an overlord flood. 7:30 also. No layer. Flood some overlords. We see Stephano doesn't do the most amazing job ever of denying this. It's very easy to say, oh crap, I have to be really on the ball with the Zergling spotting. I mean, Stephano is just decent with the Zergling spotting. And even erroneously gets a Spore Crawler because he's worried he might be up against some kind of air play. But the same rule is going to follow. We let everything time itself. How many roaches do we get? As many roaches as we can afford. And the rest end up being Lings. I will note this is one of the most aggressive all-ins you can do. It's a 7-gate all-in. We see 36 probes in production, out right now. He's halted probe production. This is as aggressive of pressure as you can be under. And let me also even note how early this comes up. Big 8 warp gate plays will end up happening a little after 8 minutes. And I mean, MC is already warping in a ton of units before then. I mean, this is a ridiculous amount of stuff. The second warping round even comes at around 8:15. It's just crazy how early this ends up being. And yet, literally, by just not missing any injects, in the midst of all this craziness, Stephano just builds roaches, builds Lings, micros reasonably well, and against the most aggressive, crazy play possible. Stephano, I will say, it's a pretty close hold, but I want to note that it's a very straightforward way to hold. You simply macro well, you don't do anything tricky. Micro reasonably. and you're going to take it down. No +1. Often it's very easy to just say, oh, well, I can't build Zerglings. If he has +1 Zealots, you certainly can. And the instant the attack starts to get held off, I will come back to my previous note, catch up with the build once attack is held. Great. Wow. Stephano wins this game shortly thereafter. So I'm just going to step into the next game that I wanted to show. How are we doing on time? Oh, good. We've only been doing this for 5 minutes. Let's take a look at a game between MC and Stephano. Once again on Daybreak. Yes. So I sort of alluded to something way long ago at the start of the daily where I said there's this early opening phase where we're going Roach Ling to hold stuff off and also Roach Ling to bring the noise. And then there's the late game half, which we're going Broodlord, Infester, Corruptor. And the big danger is in this link up in the middle. This is where we see most of the vulnerability happen, is in the link up. I will say Stephano didn't always do this crazy aggressive style. Most of the time, Stephano actually went for an infestation pit, like an instant infestation pit, and would literally hop over that middle juncture right away and just begin going Infester Ling and maybe never even build roaches. Kind of cool. But in this game, we're going to see Stephano basically do the same stuff. So let's check this out. 6 minutes, we saw the 2 gas go down. 7 minutes, Evo Chamber and Roach Warren. Our Overlord spotted 2 gas. So what does that mean? No early attack. At 7:30, we are going to get our lair. Everything right on check. In a little bit, we're going to add on 2 geysers. So we wait a little bit. There's one. Wait a little bit more. Another one should be coming up somewhere here. Oh. What? Well, whatever. I will note that still, when we can afford it, Ling speed. Yeah, nice. We go ahead and get our Evolution Chamber upgrades. No big deal. Stephano, you're killing me, man. Where's that gas at, man? Either way, we get our macro hatch up when we can afford it. There's that extra gas geyser. Stephano. Either way, we're getting our speed up really quickly. Everything is pretty much as we were talking about before. Oopsie daisies, didn't point out the Overlord Flood because I was too disappointed that his second gas was so late. But yeah, look at this. We have the Overlord Flood coming up. We're doing good on our drone count. Yep, look at all them Overlords. Building dat Overlords. And then we just start the mass unit production after we flood Overlords slightly longer. But yeah, I mean, Stephano's just poking around, checking everything. This is kind of interesting, this choice to get Burrow. But we see Stephano in virtually the same position as he was before. He actually had 20 more supply in the last game, and this is because he got blocked a little bit. He does have 2 extra drones, but I want to note what MC is doing different in this game. In the game where we saw Parting crushed, Parting was rallying here, trying to hold this area, and Parting had 4 gateways in the main and was building 4 more up here, and Stephano hits before that happens. In this game, MC is actually already pre-opted to have 6 gates total and is going for the Immortals and all the usual upgrades and stuff. But 6 gates, cannons here, not going for a big wall of gateways, instead just relying on those 6 gates. And in this positioning, it's very easy to get the huge wall of gateways up, and then 3 minutes later they attack, and you think, oh, well, I'm totally safe. It's great to get this wall of gateways up, because look how easy and comfortable and safe I am. Stephano's play is hitting while those gateways are building, so we don't really end up being able to make use of them. What's great about this is that by building the cannons here, the Protoss army actually only needs to be down here and over here. We have a small space that we need to control. This is the important way of dealing with this from the Protoss point of view. Small distance between our 2 spaces. If we're building gateways up here, we have to defend those gateways. So we're going to have units all the way up here and then travel all the way down to our front. MC, just very good. And see, look at this. Holding everything really steady. So we do indeed see Stephano just rallying forth with as many units as he can. Trying to hit from the two sides, but hey, this is quite nice. We only ever really need to get units to here. And Stephano does try to do this crazy target firing, breaking down. Still churning out tons of stuff. You'll note that in the money section, he's basically just building whatever he can afford. If he has gas, he gets roaches. Otherwise, he gets lings. Cool. Couple attempted bust-in counterattack type stuffs at the front. Stephano does this target fire thing, and a lot of people will say, oh, this is the reason he lost the game. Oh my god, he shouldn't have done that. This is not necessarily true. Oh, hey, cool, I'm dropping all the frames. Nice. Let me pull back. Right now, all my frames are dropping, so we're just going to hang out here. Relax, everybody. And audio clear. Subscribers, let me know if there's audio. Clearing the chat out. Audio is cutting out. And there we go. Now everything seems to be working. Every now and again, the encoder poops out. But everything should be good. I'm going to go ahead and unmute the chat, and if everything's good, doing good, type looking good, and if it's not doing well, then type type of fruit. Excellent. So I just want to review kind of what we were talking about. We just see, there's kind of the same structure as what he did versus party. There's this target firing thing that goes on, and I will just replay the last minute, even if it didn't get cut out. I still think it's useful to note that MC, by having everything close together, can keep his army here. And even as he's pulling back, you'll see that Stephano has to plunge really deep into Protoss territory. Just very good, smart defensive positioning. Even able to bring his whole army in one place and back to another, and deflect it quite well. Now, many people look at this point and go, oh, it's the moment when he lost the game, this is so bad and so terrible. It's obviously bad, but that's not really the reason that Stephano goes on to lose this game. So many times we've talked about early game Ling Roach, late game Broodlord Infestor, and the junction in the middle is the problem. Here we're going to see that little problem juncture coming up. Stephano does indeed try to do these nice little counterattacks. There's actually a Zealot in there. I don't know if you can see him, but he has been preventing any sort of bust in at the front. But here we see Stephano basically going, oh, well, things have stopped working. Well, at 13 minutes, let me try now to begin going for this Infestor mixture. So suddenly, Stephano goes from huge aggression to total passivity as he's getting up these extra Infestors. I would describe this passivity as total from Stephano. Even though he has units rallied here, they cannot break this, and they certainly cannot break this. He only has this one hotkey. That's kind of cool. He's just going to tweak, pull back. So this is the reassuring part for a lot of Protoss players, is that they literally sit here, and what's the big issue you always have as Protoss with a big maxed army? Well, that issue is when your opponent has a ton of Broodlord Infestor up. After a Zerg player has gone, mainly Zergling and Roach early on, he just will not have a big Broodlord Infestor army up for quite some time. So we actually see MC sit, waits very patiently. In many circumstances, it's incorrect to just sit as Protoss and wait till you're maxed, but after you've deflected that sort of early Zerg pressure, we see now Stephano trying to flood the spine crawlers. I think he even builds more. He has some Infestors up. Look at the hive. The hive's still halfway done. In other words, Stephano overcommitted to this middle attack timing, which you kind of have to do if you want it to work. And now he's going to try to pull back and get a bunch of infestors, and pull back and get this hive and layer and all this stuff decked up. Here's the issue that you will have when you have a mid-game army of Ling Roach with some late-game pieces, the infestor, and now you're up against a late-game army mixture. We see oodles and oodles of corruptors coming out from Stephano, but to no avail. Because we see MC is hitting the Zerg right before this hive ends up coming up. Now, I know it's very easy to say, well, what the hell? If I'm Protoss, how do I know I'm hitting him at this timing? It's not that you need to scout the hive and you just see, okay, is this Broodlord coming right now? Okay, I need to hit 1 minute before now. Damn it! There's actually not a lot of scouting going on from the Protoss side of things. What's happening is Protoss is literally saying, oh, you threw a bunch of Ling Roach at me early on. You actually threw a lot at me. That means if I wait until I have a big, strong, maxed army, you physically cannot have the appropriate amount of infestor corruptor that you need. Physically. This is the huge juncture problem that Stephano's been struggling with in a variety of games, right? We already see the corruptors coming out. Oh me, oh my, how tragic. It doesn't end up working. Now, I want to take a moment to address what I think is a very reasonable, very clear thing to say. Where you might say something like, well, Stephano didn't have as many roaches in this game as he did in the first parting game. In this game, he was actually, it looked like 142 food when he was attacking. And in the last game, where parting was crushed, Stephano was up at 170 food or something like that, or 160 of 170. So, yeah, Stephano was doing a little bit worse in the opening in this game. Now, I will absolutely agree with you. That is true. Stephano was a little bit behind. But the point of this game was not to try to show that if you defend, or the point of this game was to show that if you're Protoss, you can do this swing back attack, and Stephano's in a terrible position. He doesn't have the Broodlords, he doesn't have the Corruptors, he doesn't have the Infestors. That's the really important key thing to take away from this game, is that if you're Zerg, if you're Stephano, and you're doing these huge attacks, and it doesn't work, you're going to have a very hard time getting up that pivotal mixture of Infestor, Broodlord, and all that other stuff. So what I actually want to do is come back to around... Pow! This game. This part in the game. Oops. Nope. Replay loaded up in the wrong way for me. Damn it. I'm trying to go to 13 minutes. Here we go. We see that right as this attack has started to just peter off and fail, this is when we see this extra geyser get taken. And this is when we see this other geyser get taken. Notice it's only mined 40 gas. This is where we're starting to pivot and transition away, but we just don't nearly have as much gas as we need. Even at 11 minutes, when we were beginning this attack, we had kind of an excess of minerals, which makes it, I think, very important to take a fourth while it's very safe, and these geysers need to be thrown down a little bit earlier. I actually think that Stephano could potentially be comfortable against this mixture. Could be comfortable getting up that hive tech, even doing this attack. But the problem area occurs between 11 and 13 minutes back home. This is where all the problems that you will have as the Zerg will occur. You will be trying to macro your heart out. We see there's some micro going on, Stephano getting distracted. Then he floods with roaches, his money collapses back down, making Zerglings, money collapses back down. But even just building a geyser, letting that start to rise up, that will help a lot with that transition into the late game. Also, as I come to this 15-minute mark, I'll note that Stephano had a lot of money. I actually think flooding like 15, 20 spine crawlers everywhere might be the only reasonable solution to get to late game. You just start going only drone infestor to be able to get all this goody goodness up. So we're about 2 minutes away from where I wanted to be done in part number 2, so that's good. We're a little earlier than normal. Hey, hey. So I'm just going to show one bonus game. Just one really fast bonus game before we hop on to part 3. In part 3, we're going to see yet another example of Stephano kind of struggling with this juncture period. So let me go ahead and hop back into this. Holy crap, there was a full nother game that I forgot to show. Okay, guys, we're gonna do 2 games in part number 3. In part number 3, the 2 games I want to show: one, how Stephano does a better job dealing with this juncture in the middle. Ha, that's the game I wanted to show. And after that, we're gonna show another problem game for Stephano. Okay, cool. That's what I wanted to do. So here's the bonus game. Here's the bonus game that we get to see at the end of part number 2 at warp speed. So Stephano misses his expo and his third because he's trying to run lanes in, but he doesn't get there in time. In other words, Stephano's totally boned. He gets his expansion up a full 2 minutes later. Okay, cool. Really, really late. Still trying to go for the, you know, around 6 minutes, getting these 2 up. It's a little bit delayed. It's delayed by about 30 seconds. This was at 6. This was at around 6:45. Layer, Roach Warren, Evo Chamber. And interestingly, Stephano sees just 1 starport. He doesn't see 2. He sees literally just 1. And at this point, Stephano says, okay, you have a really wide open front. Roachling is going to crush that. Alright, cool. Same shit. Throwing down a hatch. Getting 2 more gas geysers in a moment. But in terms of the response that we see from Stephano, he gets 1 spore here, 1 spore here. Cool. Looks like he didn't get the 4th gas geyser. I'm not surprised given how battered he was early game. Now look at how much pressure he's going to be under. 4 Void Rays, 2 Phoenixes. He has 3 Queens and 1 Spore. Universally, we have seen Zergs in the past adding up to 6 Queens, getting like 3 Spores in the main. Stephano literally is not even prepared for this. In the production, he hasn't even started another Queen. Look at this. On a huge, nice, spread, wide, open map like Antigua, Stephano doesn't even need to do this sort of preparation. He literally just boxes all his units and rallies forward. Taking incredible damage in the main, trying to build Queens, trying to move the Spore Crawlers back. It looked like Parting was very clearly going to win this game. Oh my gosh, the terrible damage. I was watching this and I was like, wow, this is going to be a really clean win for Parting. And then Stephano just waltzes in the front, because there's literally no way to do that much damage with air and defend your front at the same time. Between 11 and 13 minutes, every Protoss player will struggle with some kind of defensive aspect. Even in MC's position, where MC built 6 gates, a robo, and built the exact unit composition he needed, he barely held on. So of course when Parting's trying to hurl a bunch of units at him, if those units are trying to do damage in the main, there's no way possible that they can be at home to defend. And then Stephano builds a hatch in the main base and wins. Cool, huh? Really cool, eh? Nice! Gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna look at how to do a better job of dealing with that juncture of going from Roach Lane to Infestor Broodlord.